I wish to recognize Mr. Dante Saunders, who has also joined us for this press briefing. Thank you very much. The country is mourning. We are mourning. As we all know, the person who has departed was not an ordinary person. He was our president, Republican president, and as president, loved by the entire country. We have wise sayings in our cultures to the effect that ubusuma bwamfwa kushika. That is Bemba, ubusuma bwamfwa kushika. It means that that moment or that activity of putting someone to rest is very, very important, and it changes everything because of the closure that it comes with. However, I must say that burial, in fact, opens the door to the real mourning. Because when we bury, people go away, the drama stops, and the family, the relations of our deceased brother or sister remain on their own, sometimes still with a few people around. That is when the real mourning starts. So we believe that the real mourning for the family of President Lungu is yet to come. It will be that time when Madam Esther Lungu will never hear that ringtone she has assigned or she assigned to the number of her husband. That ringtone that made her jump to grab the phone because the husband was calling. She will no longer hear that ringtone. The real mourning will come for the children when that man, that jovial man who used to call them to find out how they were doing, will no longer call. The real mourning for the Lungu family will come when the little grandchildren will be demanding to know where grandpa has gone and why it's taking too long to come back. So there is a death at stake, and this is reality. And we are all going to die. Having given that background, as UPND Presidential Support System, the entire UPND fraternity, and of course, speaking for many Zambians, we urge the family of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, senior members of the Patriotic Front, to do the right thing so that President Lungu's motto remains, can be brought back to Zambia, the country he loved, the the country that he led as president, the highest office in the land, for 7 years, the country where you find people that truly love him, people that worked with him, the family where, the country where his family reside. We urge members of the family of President Lungu to heed the message of many traditional and religious leaders who are echoing the same message. The latest, as you all know, the Catholic Archbishop of Kasama, who happens to be the president of the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops, Archbishop Ignatius Chama, who in a passionate sermon yesterday delivered on Lutanda Radio in Kasama, pleaded with the nation, pleaded with the family to cooperate with government so that this impasse can be resolved as quickly as possible. We need closure. The family need to be allowed to mourn properly. And as I said at the beginning, that will only happen after the burial. I was almost saying at the beginning of this conference that in case I become overcome by emotion, I will just depart. I will just leave, because I don't want to break down in front of cameras and create a drama that will look like it was rehearsed. So I pray that that will not happen. I say so because of how closely, as many of you would know, I worked with President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. And we as Zambians should know that beyond the image of every president, there is an ordinary human being. President Lungu, as an ordinary human being, had friends from everywhere. Friends even in the UPND. Friends that he left in the UPND, having been a member, one of the early members. The members, the Lozis, as we were informed by Madam Inonge Wina, our former Vice President, the Ngonis, the Luvales, the Namwangas, all tribes in Zambia have got this wisdom. In Bemba they say, Uledi la tabamucheva kukanwa. The wisdom that when people are grieving, when people are mourning a loved one, we should not scrutinize what they say. They are likely to make mistakes in what they say and of course what they do. That wisdom cannot be doubted. It's a wisdom that we all accept as Zambians. But we want to say that that wisdom, those sayings in our languages, were never meant to be a license to cause confusion at a funeral or indeed during a funeral. We are all Zambians here. And we go to funerals. you will agree with me that when I appear at a funeral, and the first thing that we do as per tradition is to go in the house, humble yourself, mourn in whichever way you want to mourn. Now imagine Frank Bwalya getting in the house to mourn, and somebody in the corner begins to say, Indoshia Isa, the one who has killed our relative has arrived. You will agree with me that the elders at that funeral and everyone around would not accept such a thing. We have seen it happening in our families. Such people are grabbed and thrown out. Sometimes they are beaten. We are not encouraging any beating, but just talking about what happens in our lives. Such people sometimes are beaten for a simple reason that such sentiments at a funeral create havoc. They create confusion. And instead of helping people to mourn, they distract people from doing the very thing that they have come to do at a funeral house. Some of the cases that we follow in the courts of law emanate from such situations, whereby my uncle takes a relative to court because they were accused of witchcraft. These things are common. So as UPND, we want to say to all the people who are saying that whatever is coming from the Patriotic Front, or indeed any citizen and leaders of the opposition, should be ignored because people are mourning. We think that is not the rationale of the wisdom of not scrutinizing what those who mourn say. We urge those who are calling for such behavior that borders on ignoring, law breaking, attempts to create confusion in the country, to understand that the wisdom of those sayings I referred to in our tribes, in our languages, are not a license. They are not meant to give cantankerous people a field day to create confusion and break the law. It is therefore necessary for all of us to be bold enough and continue to help those who may not have the discerning skills that we have to see what is at stake. We therefore endorse the thinking by millions of Zambians that some people within the Patriotic Front and the opposition are trying to exploit the death of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu to decampaign President Hakainde Hichilema. As simple as that. That's the motive. That is the motive. And this is highly regrettable. At this juncture, allow me to celebrate a few people. The list is long, but allow me to celebrate a few people. including Father John Zulu, the Director of Caritas from the Catholic Diocese of Chipata. These are the ones that I've heard speaking in the last few hours. They are not the only religious or traditional leaders which we should be celebrating in terms of providing leadership and ensuring that sanity prevails as we mourn President Lungu. The priest from the East, showing rare wisdom from that part of our country, has demanded that we respect President Lungu even in death and mourn him in a dignified manner. I also wish to add to that list a lawyer by the name of Isaac Simbeye, who in our view is one of those heroes that we should celebrate. This lawyer has refused the latest along the same lines was a statement by Professor Nkanduluo. I've added by Mayo, by Professor, to the effect that even as the family of President Lungu, his children, are mourning him, the Drug Enforcement Commission has had the audacity to summon his son for interrogations. when the motive is clear, this man is so bad, look at what he's doing. The idea is to whip up hatred. The idea is to at a time when they know very well that he can never come out and defend himself. During a national calamity, tragedy, where they know very well that the president is mourning and he cannot jump into the mud, not only because of the mourning, but because it's not his character in the first place. Many Zambians have seen what happened even when President HH was in the opposition. Some high-profile leaders would join the UPND, become very close to him. In no time they would leave, start insulting him. Can anyone tell me any occasion happening between HH and somebody who left the UPND that time, or indeed this time? It's not his character. It's not his character. The character of who called him useless. And I stand here as a member of the UPND, forgiven, given a chance to grow, given a chance to contribute. That's who HH is. And Zambians are seeing that indeed HH represents the kind of leadership this country requires to move forward. The kind of leadership this country requires to develop. Sober leadership. Bold leadership. A leadership characterized by reconciliation and forgiveness. So we celebrate this lawyer, who again has made it clear that what Mayowa, Professor Nkanduluo said is not true. We are all mourning. And we urge everyone who have seen an opportunity to decampaign President HH, to exploit the death of President Lungu, to hold their fire. As all traditional leaders are saying, and religious leaders and people of all walks of life, they should allow the country to mourn in dignity, in line with our Christian values and our traditional values. The time for campaigns will come. They are free, or should I say they will be free at that time to bring back the death of President Edgar Lungu if they so wish. And we will be in the mood to respond to them properly. We are not in that mood now. And therefore we take great exception to insinuations that some of our members are excited because one of our major, if not the only competitor, is gone. Fellow Zambians, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that any UPND, any senior member of the UPND, any leader of the UPND has done or said to warrant such concerns. Nothing. If such were said when he was blocked by the courts of law, maybe I would have given them the benefit of the doubt. Not over is death. Even before President Lungu died, senior government officials kept guiding the nation to stop exploiting his name, even in sickness. They advised to allow him to rest as he recovered, as he was being treated in South Africa, as we were all informed. We therefore call upon all Zambians to condemn the malice, the propaganda, the hatred that we are seeing. We demand that the PF leadership condemn the tribal remarks that have been made during this funeral. You all know what we're talking about. And we urge law enforcement agencies to be vigilant. Because as we said, does not mean people are free to create confusion, to break the law in this country. So it is our hope that when the funeral is over, people like our brother, the PF Secretary General, Mr. Raphael Nakachinda, and others would be summoned to make a statement about some of the things they have said. Top on that list, the poisoning issue. Many of us believe that that poisoning story was meant to poison the minds of gullible Zambians to rise against an innocent man, President HH and his government. Law enforcement agencies should be vigilant, and no one should hide behind any wisdom to the effect that you shouldn't pay attention to what those who mourn say. When they break the law, they should be arrested. Even in our families, when you assault a member of the family at a funeral, sometimes these matters go to the police. Some people end up in jail. We have seen comments and we are very disappointed. Zambians are very disappointed with some of the postings and of course comments that we have seen on social media, even about procedures that are standard. Procedures that are standard. We all know that a former president in this country, or indeed a president, that is if he dies in office, is not buried in the ordinary manner that many of us will be buried, or our brothers and sisters are buried, where you just dig a grave. You could do it in the morning. By 12 or 14 hours, the body arrives and you bury your loved one. The president is not buried like that. The preparation of the burial site is done differently. So you don't expect that the burial site will be prepared in the morning and the burial is in the afternoon. Arrangements are done. This is standard procedure. It's not HH who was given instructions to say, quickly prepare the grave for this man. No. It's the law. That's what we have all agreed as Zambians. It's not different from the issue of foregoing your entitlement, your retirement benefits, when, as former president, you opt to get back into active politics. It's not HH. I don't have the permission, but I don't think Dr. VJ Venon Mwanga would take offense if I shared this. We had the privilege to visit him this week. I think it was on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. And he recounted to us how he, then I think as foreign minister, under Dr. Chiruba, went to Dr. Kaunda and said to him, "You are no longer president, how are you going to live?" This is somebody who worked with Dr. Kaunda, but was part of a team that removed Dr. Kaunda, and you all know that that election was not an easy one. There was a lot of animosity. So he goes to the former president and he says, "How are you going to live?" Dr. Mwanga told us that that was the genesis of the law that we have today, providing for the benefits, the retirement benefits of a former president. And he went to other countries to look at what they had, and he said to us, ours, in fact, our law is even a little more ambitious, a little more generous. So it's not HH that has created this law. And it was not HH who said, "Can you make sure that this happens?" The law automatically kicks in once somebody voluntarily, as we were informed by PF themselves, that one thing we need to say is, this is not only un-Zambian, not un-Christian only, but inhuman. How did we get here? We agree, of course not exactly in the same vein, with the former Secretary General of the Patriotic Front, Mr. Davis Mwila, who has called upon the church to help them reconcile and to reconcile the country after the funeral of President Lungu. This country needs healing. The hatred is too much. And we have created for ourselves, all of us, an embarrassment that could have been avoided. And we are saying things that are even making it worse in full view of the international community. And it is a shame. In conclusion, we continue to urge members of the family of President Lungu, senior members of the Patriotic Front, to heed the voice of Zambians, including notable Zambians, traditional leaders, religious leaders, and children who are calling for an amicable solution, expedient agreement to bring back the remains of our 60th Republican President, be given a befitting farewell with all the honors, even as Commander-in-Chief, former Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Something that President Hakainde Hichilema and his government have committed to. And we commend them for that. We also continue to call for calm in terms of our own members. The guidance is very clear from the Office of the Secretary General and other senior UPND and government officials to mourn.
Say a few remarks. I now call upon our father, Mr. Dantes want us to say one or two words.
Please, please.
Thank you very much. Father Bwalya, I'd like to thank you very much for the kind words you've been talking and the guidance that you've been giving us. I think it's very important that we echo the Father Bwalya's sentiment of the people. I'm speaking to you today, not as a member of UPND, not as whatever the case you may want to call me, but I want to say to you that my age will tell you that I have noticed a very big difference between the young people of today and the elderly people. The thing that I have experienced is today I'm an old person, but I remember when I was young. And a young can never ever imagine what I go through at my age until you arrive at that particular age of mine. For me, I see that the situation politically today is being manipulated. Because people have failed to come up with solutions to some of our problems in this country. We have witnessed a group of people trying to undermine this particular government. And I want you to be assured that, as you all know, I was part and parcel of nearly every government that was in power. Today, as I stand before you, I have one thing that I must say. This government of UPND has been the best government that the people of this country could ever have. At least I've seen for once in my lifetime a foundation, a very strong foundation, has been built for the people of this country, upon which many issues can come about, whether it is political development, whether it is economic or social development. All of these particular issues can come up. Whereas in the past, believe me, I know what I'm talking about. There was no such a thing as a foundation for the people of this country. Today we have a foundation. Let us not allow anybody, but anybody, to come and disturb that particular foundation and put us back to where we've come from. We must march forward. Our simple issue is message from an activist, from an elderly person speaking to you today, is that I urge the people of this country, let's move forward. We cannot continue where we are or move backwards. We can't. For the sake of your children, one day all of you will be a great-grandfather like I am today. You will be a great-grandmother. What are you going to say to those children when they have nothing that you left behind for them? So I urge you all, let us take this opportunity, this particular opportunity, whether you like HH or not. The fact is, we must agree the foundation is there. And there are many, many, many developments, I'm not going to even go about it, that HH has brought today. So I thank you very much, Father Bwalya. Thank you very much for giving me the pleasure of talking to people. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, those that have got questions, I would have loved that you come forward and ask your question from here. But if it's not possible for you to navigate through to come here, you can ask your question from where you are. Maybe I may start with my colleague here. Kindly introduce yourself, your name and the institution you are representing.
Okay. My name is Fr Bwalya from Zambia Daily Now. Yes, they have been.
The first one, what is lacking for us to have unity? We believe as UPND that a lot of progress has been made, even as the government continues to engage the family to resolve the issue of bringing the remains of our President Lungu back home. We think that the country has remained united. And we believe that no one will succeed to create a situation where Zambians will start rioting, destroying property, killing one another, and so on. For a simple reason, that this is not the first time that a former president has died. This is not the first time that a former president, the family of a former president who has died, is aggrieved about matters of travel, about matters of benefits, and so on. It's not the first time. When Dr. Kaunda left office, he decided to remain in active politics. The story is known. The story is known concerning Mr. Rupia Bwezanbanda. In 2015, that was 2015, the election of 2016 after the death of President Michael Chilufya-Sata, we all know the courts ruled that he could not stand, that is RB. And I think it was Dr. Nevas Mumba who the court said was the rightful candidate for the MMD. We all know this story. So those who are trying to create anarchy, those who are trying to poison the minds of Zambians will not succeed. Above all, we are a Christian nation. And we know many people are praying for the stability, for the peace that we have been known for. It is our prayer that sooner than later, the family will heed the message of those traditional and religious leaders we're talking about, that there can be a compromise and the needful can be done so that President Lungu can be mourned, can be buried here in Zambia in a dignified manner. Allow me to take advantage of this question and say something that maybe I should have said in my main statement. That if, and I want to speak slowly, if President Edgar Chagwa Lungu left instructions about his funeral and things like burial, which are consistent with the way PF and family members have behaved, then the family has failed him in a manner that should be regrettable. Then the family and when we look at the people that worked with President Lungu, some of them who insulted him and he back and worked with, many of us don't believe that in his right mind he could have left instructions that would be divisive in his right mind. Of course, when somebody is ill, when somebody is a politician and they have gone through what many politicians go through, such as what HH went through, and we all know, attempts on his life, being sent to jail for 127 days, all these things. 127 days. All these things, it may be understood for a human being, weak as we all are, to say things that really doesn't come from the bottom of their heart. And as I said, it's the duty of the family to protect his legacy. Unasked what we meant by saying President HH is in an awkward position. It's that awkward position of a widow who did everything possible to nurse a husband, but still dies from natural causes and is being accused of negligence, is being accused of being behind the death of the husband. she finds herself in a very awkward position. More so because tradition would forbid the widow or widower to be defending herself in the churchise manner. That's the awkward position we are referring to. Because President HH has done no wrong at all. Some are now challenging him to say that they have not heard him speak. I was listening to my young brother Kasonde Mwenda on one of the media platforms where he was saying, no, we have not heard him speak. And when President HH speaks, he's not going to speak in the manner they want him to speak. But if he did, please allow me to underscore that he wouldn't. That's not who he is. But if he did, they would be celebrating that he has swallowed the bait. And they'll only switch seats. Another group would come and say, can you see how he's celebrating? Can you see? That's the game plan. The question from my Mbuya Daka about respecting the wishes of the family. We are confident that government, under the wise leadership, the sober leadership of President HH, will not compromise in terms of what the law provides and what President Edgar Chagwa Lungu deserves. We are also confident that the family will, sooner than later, wake up to the reality that they are holding the country at ransom. We are confident that the prayers millions of Zambians are offering are going to heaven, and that our Father in heaven is listening and will look upon us with favor, and that a solution will be found. So far, government is not dictating anything. Government is just allowing the law to speak, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yes, my sister there.
Good morning, Father.
Good morning.
My name is Fr Bwalya. I write for the band at Zambia. I have two questions. First, I'd like to find out, you did mention earlier that the former president did forfeit his benefits. But you have continued to say that since there was a statement, it's still supposed to be given to the state tribe. So doesn't that also apply to his benefits as well? I don't know if there's a law guidance and that guides over that. And right now, we're seeing some breaking news that the Lungu family is saying that the president shouldn't go anywhere near their funeral procession.
Come again, the last.
News just now is saying that the family says the president shouldn't be part of the funeral procession. So isn't that also law that the president has to speak at the funeral of the former president? So I'd like to understand your position as a party on where the law stands and where the first family benefits and the funeral procession stand. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Darius Jonia from Diamond TV.
Just a minute, my brother, just a minute. Please go ahead. What's your name again?
Darius.
Darius.
Darius Jonia from Diamond TV. My question is just a follow-up on the family's demands. One of them being that they want the funeral to be private. Well, that's according to the family spokesperson. Are you in a position to tell us to what extent that the government will be able to bend to the dictates of the family? And I'm asking this because there was already a period of national mourning that was already announced by the Secretary to the Cabinet, and it's close to conclude. I think it should be a day or in between to conclude. Are we seeing a possibility of an extension if up to Saturday or Sunday there's no agreement between the family of the former president and the government?
Okay. Any last question?
That's the last question.
DG can respond to the 2 questions that have come.
So let me respond to the last question, which is the last question. We do not speak on behalf of government. We publicize what government has said, and government is the people of Zambia. So the question should actually be turned, and Zambians asked, will they allow a man that governed them, a man that they elected? We want to be there. If it means watching on TV only because we can't travel, we want to do that. He was president. Some of the people who got social cash transfer did so from the time he was president, and they have continued to do that. And they are saying, I was put on the list for the first time by Edgar Lungu, and HH increased it. And my neighbor was also included when HH became president. People are seeing that continuity and celebrating it. And that's why we are sure that Zambians are not just praying for the repose of the soul of President Edgar Lungu, but also for President HH, the man to whom he peacefully handed over power. The man who has continued many of the good programs that were started by the MMD, maybe even by UNIP, escalated by the PF, and brought to even a higher level under the leadership of President HH. That is our prayer. But we will listen when government has to say something on this matter. The first last question about the benefits. Is it logical that government should offer the former president a state funeral when they withheld his benefits? Is it logical? When we get into issues of what is logical and what is not, we need to be very, very logical ourselves. And the first thing we need to do is to agree that the current government, President HH, never withdrew the benefits of the former president. It's the Zambian people because the Constitution says we the people. All laws that flow from that supreme land of the law, the bylaws and so on, they use the same authority. So it's the Zambian people. If in future the Zambian people would decide otherwise, that law will be changed. For now, that's how it remains. It happened when President Rupia Banda, as we said, decided to remain in active politics. The same happened to President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Therefore, withdrawal of his benefits by the Zambian people, as the law stipulates, has no connection to how he should be buried. The provisions in terms of how he should be buried, the culture is separate. And upon death, he continues to be state property, he continues to belong to us, and we should bury him the way we have agreed to be burying people of that stature in society. It's as simple as that. And we are at a very high level. We are not talking about a simple person like Frank Bwalya, who dies, and his death, of course, may be mourned by people who knew him and so on, but his family can do what they want and you forget. No! We're talking about the former head of state. Yeah. Former head of state. As one brothers under the sun, oh, one strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace means Zambia's sky. Like a noble eagle in its flight, Zambia, praise to thee. Oh, one strong and free. Praise be to praise be, praise be, praise be. Bless our great nation, Zambia, Zambia. Free men we stand under the flag of our land, Zambia, praise to thee. Oh, one strong and free.
Heavenly Father, we thank you that you've been sovereign. Thank you, Lord, for the words that have been spoken. We pray that you seal them by your Spirit and amplify them to the nation and stretch forth your hand of power once again over this nation. Let peace prevail and comfort us all as we are mourning, and see us through, Lord, in this challenging moment as a nation. We commit